Welcome everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Székely Balázs. I'm a student here at MCC Senior Program, and today we are going to speak about the AI Act of the EU. In the history of humanity, we managed to conquer our surroundings. We managed to create fire. We traveled the world and occupied every part of it. We are managed to land on the moon. And also we realized how powerful is our intelligence. And now we have created a technology, sort of a weapon which is faster than us, which connects the dots faster than us, and this is why it's probably intelligenter than us. This is why such a technology cannot stay unregulated. Our guest speaker is Axel Voss. He is the member of the European Parliament, the member of the European People's Party, and in Germany also the member of the Christian Democratic Union. The moderator of today's panel discussion will be Gyula Winkler, member of the European Parliament, member also of the EPP, and also part of the Democratic Alliances of Hungary in Romania. Gentlemen, the stage is yours.
Okay. So clearly there's some preparation behind this event, because not only we have our pictures, we have our portable microphones. Now we have microphones in our hands, and even we should respect the place that we are taking. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I would like to say a warm welcome to Axel Voss, who is here now as the AI guru of the European Parliament. You know that in the Parliament we have always responsible for each file, for each dossier, and Axel is not only now working on AI, but earlier he was working on GDPR regulation, he was working also on copyright regulation, and he's a member of the European Parliament since 2009. And he is, as a lawyer by training, he is member of the Jury Committee. This is the Legal Affairs Committee of the European Parliament. He is also working in the Libe Committee. This is the Civil Liberties Committee of our Parliament. And also we are colleagues in one of the delegations of the European Parliament, the delegation for New Zealand and Australia. I will not say any more things on Axel Voss. You can ask, and then he will later reply. Thank you very much for traveling to Cluj and having this meeting with students and people who are interested. You have to know one more thing. Axel used to be for 7 or 8 or 9 years also a lecturer at a university, which means that he is quite free-flowing in discussions with students. So Axel, once again, danke schön. Thank you very much for coming to Cluj, Kolozsvár, and I think I can give you the floor now. And maybe first thing would be that you make us a general presentation. What is the AI regulation? What is the AI Act? And why did we need such a regulation in the European Union? Please, the floor is yours.
So, thanks a lot for this wonderful introduction by both of you, and thanks for organizing and the invitation, and for you all, thanks for coming and being interested in this subject. At first, what we have to be aware is everything what we are doing, it will be more and more transparent, more digital, and also more circular. And this is the starting point also what we have to have in mind if we're coming to the meaning of data, so that when we grow up, data of, let's say, water consumption was only kind of water consumption, but today you can read out of this if you're showering or taking a bath, if you're doing this alone with 2 people or 3 people or whatever. So how it means at the end how you're giving your life a kind of a way forward in hygienic issues. So just to give you an impression of these. The AI Act now, and now we have reached a technology what is doing something on its own and what we can't explain. So we are feeding algorithms with a lot of data, and they are finding out somehow some specific rules, or they are detecting better now cancer than doctors can do. They are trading better at the end, faster. And this is what we should have in mind. AI is giving you the opportunity and disrupting your life somehow, and that you can produce better or more individual orientated, faster and less costly. So this is a kind of an opportunity what we should have in mind, and that's why being only afraid of AI is something what you shouldn't do. You should more embrace it, and like what we are doing as a legislator right now, and trying to regulate it. Not over-regulating, because I always would say the window of opportunity for Europeans is closing more than less. Probably we have still 1 year in inventing and trying to explore more in this direction. We need to have research on it. Otherwise, all the big ones will overtake everything. And then Europeans are sitting there and probably do not have the possibility. Here we are coming already, what you mentioned before, the GDPR might create a kind of a mentality what is not really in this era of digitalization the best approach on it. It's on the one hand side extremely necessary to protect your fundamental rights and your personal data and so on. But on the other hand, if you have this mentality in just protecting everything, so personal data and all the outcomes out of it, then you are not open enough for sharing data, you are not open enough for processing personal data. So this might be kind of a contradiction already in this regard. And here, this is why then we need to find the balance, because if you would like to have a good result out of algorithms, then you need to process a lot of personal data to reach a result like non-biased, non-discriminatory, gender-balanced, and you can't do this without personal data. So we have to change our mind a bit, how we can provide enough data to create algorithms for, let's say, health sector, pandemic situation, more energy efficiency, and so on. For all the problems we are having right now, we can take algorithms, AI, artificial intelligence, to improve the situation. And this is what we are trying to do on this legislative level. And here the problems are starting, because we are 7 political parties in the European Parliament. We need to come forward, and we have always the spirit of compromise, and we would like to come forward with it to regulate it somehow. But this means also the industry sometimes is waiting for this regulation, and we are dealing with this already with 2.5 years. But if you're not coming forward with your idea, what you might have right now, then you might be losing your shares in the market. So whenever you have a wonderful idea, just start. It doesn't make sense to wait on a legislator at the end, but we are trying to give AI a frame. The first thing, of course, is what we are doing is asking ourselves, what is the definition of AI? And here we had already some political problems, but we solved it now in a way where we are saying, or we are using the definition of the OECD from 2019 in a short version somehow. And this has then the contact to international dimensions. Otherwise, if we are creating our own definition, then all of a sudden we are out, or we are not linked any longer to the international standards. Then, second question is the scope. What should be in this regulation and what should be out? And here, of course, already political differences are occurring. What we now in a majority have done is saying what should not be in is military questions. Also, military can use AI in a wonderful way, differently. But then, of course, research should out, because research means you get new ideas and probably new business models out of it, and they should be not fulfill everything what we are demanding. And then open source software or open source developments should also not be included, because all of a sudden you don't have someone who is really responsible for it. But then this might be integrated when we are coming to the so-called foundational models, then they might return to the scope, but in general open source are not into it. What I would like to see would be also to be out of the scope B2B, so business to business operations. I'm always would say the business can look after themselves, and they are not really kind of affected then if they have B2B. But B2B is now in so far. National security is in. Even there I would say we need some special approaches to these. Law enforcement purposes are also in. And also, if you would like to see it in a way like this, so the rights, workers' rights are also in. So everything might be in except these military research and open source. And then we are coming to a kind of a structure where we are saying, oh, we have different risks with AI. So on the top is the model where we would say what is forbidden. This is something what we are expressing in Article 5 and the annex to Article 5, where we are saying social scoring, of course, what we are knowing from China, if you're walking across the street by red light, or if you're not paying your bills in a proper time, then all of a sudden you are getting a kind of a score, a negative one, and this then decides if you can have some holidays or if you get some goodies or whatever it is. And this is something what we totally don't like. And here we are saying this should be forbidden. But then you're coming to this question, what about the questions of if someone has enough money to buy something, this will be evaluated by a kind of a special system, or is a pension fund already something what is social scoring in a way? So here we need to have these differences, and that's why we need to be always careful in the wording that we are not taking these on board. The other thing of what we are trying to, or what a majority in the House, I have to say, is also saying what should be forbidden is facial recognition. More meaning from the government or state or law enforcement and so on, not in a commercial way. But facial recognition, the majority would like to get rid of it. And also emotional recognition. So here we could get a kind of an exemption. For health reasons, emotional recognition is still okay, but not then for other purposes. And this is always quite easy, if I may be a bit politically. So the more left-wing orientated parties in the House are just saying, oh, we have to get rid of everything what might be critical. As a lawyer, I would say, and as a member of the EPP group, what I would say, no, we need to balance what is good and what is right, what is bad. And because there's a thin line always in digital issues, but we should go this extra mile for trying to find this balance. But they are not, and they have the majority in the House, and that's why we are just saying banning everything. And this wouldn't be my approach, but it's now the question. And this, by the way, is also the biggest fight what we have between the institutions. So the European Council is more in the sense of bringing police and so on also on this level that they can use AI for law enforcement purposes and so on, and the parliament in its majority not. And so this using biometrical data for purposes like this is something where we are fighting all the time. And last week, by the way, because of these and foundational models, what we are saying to kind of basic instruments, foundational models, and also is one of these big challenges in these negotiations. And last week, the EP, so the European Parliament, left the negotiation table because the Council was not prepared in taking over some thoughts about foundational models in this regard. So it's getting critical in this whole development of negotiation on AI systems. Also predictive policing. So if it should also be banned for this majority in the House, but it can also be quite helpful for the police if they are, let's say, finding some spots where theft is taking place, and then they can add these two algorithms and might then predict where's the next spot of these. And this might be helpful and not infringing individual rights and so on, but we haven't had the possibility because of the other majority. The second case is these forbidden AI models or AI algorithms. The second level is high-risk systems. Third level is then low-risk and non-risk at the fourth level and so on. But we are focusing very much in this regulation on high-risk AI systems. And here what we are doing is now, and this was differently what the Commission has proposed, they just were saying, oh, we need to have a high-risk AI system if you are linked these to a critical infrastructure. But we are saying then a kind of a soda machine in a space agency doesn't mean that this soda machine has AI on board, but this doesn't mean it's high risk already. So that's why we are saying also we need a second criteria. It's infrastructure, this critical infrastructure, and the context, how you're using these. And that's why we are making here progress. The Council in this regard have seen this in the same direction, so this is not that critical part of it. So, but then we are coming, what I mentioned already, to this conflict with the GDPR. So if you would like to have the results, good results out of it, you need to process a lot of personal data, but the GDPR is not really allowing. There is one article, Article 6, paragraph 4, saying you can use personal data for different purpose, but then you have to inform and blah, blah, blah. The Data Protection Administration is ignoring these, so that's why they are not really allowing these. So especially in Germany, where they are very complicated in this regard. And then all of a sudden you have this conflict. And we are trying to solve these with these so-called sandboxes. The sandboxes are kind of an environment where you can test and train your algorithms under the supervision of an authority. And here we might solve this problem with the GDPR, with the data protection regulation, in a way that at first companies can come with their own data and train and test their data with a different purpose in these sandboxes. And the second use case might be if you are a kind of a startup and you don't have data, that also the sandbox should provide some data. And kind of an additional element might be standards. So if we have a standard what might fulfill all the criteria we are asking for in this regulation, then everyone can go immediate or should go immediately to the market then if they have these standard implemented. But we are not there yet. So also in these negotiations, sometimes it's getting more and more complicated if you have these negotiations in it. Another question, what you should have also in mind, if you're coming once to these high-risk AI systems, then instead of these forbidden systems are forbidden and these high-risk systems are allowed. But you have then to fulfill some additional requirements and criteria. And we have a lot of these requirements for the system itself and also for the provider or the deployer itself. So a long list what they have to fulfill. And here we have to be careful in not overdoing everything. One last point? Please. It's the AI governance. Who is governing these at the end? Here we have what we would like to avoid, to make the same mistake like what we have in the GDPR already. Because in the GDPR we were saying, oh yes, there's a European Data Protection Board for cross-border cases, but if you don't have cross-border cases, everyone can interpret these in their member states. And all of a sudden you have a fragmented single market, because in Germany they are doing this differently than in Estonia or in Ireland or in Romania and so on. And this is what we would like to avoid. We need one interpretation of all these rules or provisions throughout the EU and not making this more complicated. And this is what we are hoping to achieve with this AI office. There are some special problems now. What's still on the table is the link from AI to copyright. Here, because these, when ChatGPT came up, all of a sudden we are aware, and everyone probably of you also, all of a sudden you can feel AI at home somehow if you're using ChatGPT. And now the risks out of these, when you have a large language model and generative AI models, all of a sudden they are taking also as a fundament or documentation on board copyright protected works. And what we can't allow is, as a legislator, that someone is inventing something new, that existing laws are not respected. So either we are coming once to this point and saying now we should get rid of copyright, what should have other impacts or what might have other impacts then, but here in this case we should also try to combine. And this is one big question mark right now, how we might come forward with, but the minimum what I'm expecting from the AI Act is at least that AI providers are presenting a kind of a full documentation of the content and the access to it for copyright holders. And another problem now what we have on the table, what I mentioned already, is these so-called foundational models. And now we are discussing foundational models, foundational or high impact foundational models and general purpose AI. Personally, I would say it's getting too complicated right now, but this is now trying to come forward with a compromise here. But still, we should hope and we should be aware that we should not do everything too complicated and too burdensome to the one who are deploying these and inventing these, because we are already lagging behind in Europe. If you're comparing the competition in digital issues, we might still have wonderful ideas as Europeans, but the business model is going either to the US or to China. And this is where we can't buy our bread at the end if we are not inventing some of businesses here also in Europe. And the competition question is getting more and more for me in a way that this is a core element. Of course, we also would like to protect fundamental rights and so on, but at the end we can't live without wealth and growing economy and so on. And digitalization is wealth 2.0, and if we are not aware of these and if we're not coming forward, then we are just consuming all these things what might be good for us. So this gives you kind of a good overview about problems. Of course, we can deepen these problems, but this is something I would say you have a kind of a good overview on problems, on regulation, what we are doing and what we are thinking about and so on, but also give you still one idea how far this is sometimes going. You know all these recommendation systems. So if you have seen this video, you should also watch this video. And here we are already in a way thinking about what is happening if the next video has or contains a lot of misinformation, disinformation. This is a kind of a disadvantage for democratic structured states and rule of law states and so on. And here we need to be careful. So we mentioned these already as a high risk system. We haven't done this with ChatGPT and so on, but the recommendation system was in a majority also wanted to be seen as high risk in social media, not at Netflix or Disney or whatever, but in social media, because young people are watching these videos for hours, and that's why we do not want that they are misinformed or disinformed at the end. So this has been probably kind of a short overview.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, as far as I followed the debate in the European Parliament about the AI Act, this was a very brief, a very short version of all the problems. Now I just want to announce that in a few minutes I will open the floor for the questions from your side. But first I would like to ask you one question, Axel. But also, you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, but still for this question I need an introduction. So the introduction would be the following on my part. I'm sure that the majority of the room knows what I will be telling now, but maybe not everybody. So you know that the European Parliament is the only parliament in the world that does not have the right for legal initiative. So it is the European Commission who can propose laws, and we can just ask the European Commission for them to make a proposal of a new regulation. And then all the process that Axel was describing is happening by one part between the political groups in the European Parliament, because the proposal of the Commission comes to us, but in the same time the same proposal goes to the European Council. The European Council is they are the member states, and they are debating and they are producing a different version of the same text on the basis of the proposal of the European Commission. So where is the AI Act now? It is in the so-called trialogue procedure. This is a procedure of building a compromise between the version of the European Parliament and the version of the member states of the same law. So, and now comes my question. This was a reminder, because I'm sure that many of you knew this legislative procedure of the European Union. And now comes the question. You have, at the very beginning of your presentation, you were speaking, Axel, about the fact that we have a window of opportunity of more or less 1 year to finalize this legislation. What does it mean to finalize it? Well, to get to a common position of the Council and of the Parliament, and then each of the two institutions has to vote, because we voted on our position of the AI Act. Now, when the conciliation procedure will be finalized, it's not the case now, but when it will be finalized, then the Council will vote on the common position, and the Parliament has to vote on the common position, and then the AI Act can be published in the European Journal. So my question comes now, what do you see, how do you feel? Is all this possible before the European Parliament elections next year? Because on the 9th of June 2024 we will have European parliamentary elections, and of course maybe we wish to give our legacy, one part of our legacy, of legislative legacy, we wish that the AI Act should be inside. What do you feel about this? Is it possible?
It is still possible, although we have these political or institutional fights. But I would say the week before last week, I would have said, oh, it's 80% sure that we are coming to an end under the Spanish presidency and in this year and so on. This is decreased to 60% after this mixing up last week situation. Still, I'm hoping there is a very strong political will in finishing these. That's why I still think probably not all under the Spanish presidency. It might be the Belgian presidency then next year. But there is a strong political will in finishing these. So, and this gives me the hope that we still come to an end. But it's getting tricky somehow if you're now starting with a new presidency once again and so on. But let's cross fingers. There is a chance the next trilogue will take place on the 6th of December. And this, in our minds, should have been the one where we are closing everything. It might still happen, but we don't know. So therefore, it's decreased on 60% of possibility, yes.
And what happens if you don't succeed? I mean, is there some sort of dangers for European competitiveness in AI, or what is the problem? Which are the dangers?
Yeah, sometimes I do not know if the regulation will be a danger for the European economy. Because we are too complicated in a way sometimes. But here I would say if we are not achieving these, businesses and economy can't move on, can move forward. But politically this is a kind of a face-losing situation, because the Commission was always running around in the world and saying, oh, we are the first in trying to frame AI, and if we are not achieving these, this is something where everyone outside will say, oh, they can't do this any longer, they are not weak enough or whatever, or too politically fragmented. So this shouldn't happen, but this is more this face-losing situation for the whole European Union.
Okay, well, it would not be the first in the last months, because we had some face-losing situations. Our foreign representative, Mr. Borrell, is a specialist in making the European Union losing face. I'm looking in the room, and if I see any raised hands, I immediately give you the floor. If not, and you need a few more minutes to prepare, then I have one more question, you know, and then I will think about one even newer question, but the whole point would be that you ask questions. Anyway, probably we will have new videos released very soon of Michael Jackson with new footage and new music. That is very clear. Probably we should have a regulation, but I still until the audience is preparing some questions, I will maybe ask you, Axel, that if let's suppose that we are politically brave and that we can finalize maybe in January, February, March the AI Act, and we have it in the official journal. Is this enough for the AI sector of the European Union? Do we need also some other initiatives? What do we need? Because we said that we want to be, important in the global AI. Mm-hmm. We want to have our place. We want to be forefront of the AI. So what else do we need in Europe?
So, of course, the AI Act itself won't be a kind of a very easy starting point for everyone. So we are putting here a lot of requirements, a lot of bureaucracy probably also, and so this is not very easy to fulfill, especially for the smaller companies. And here, of course, we need some accompanying instruments in a way. At first, we need to assure that the interpretation of all the rules, what we are now creating, are approached in the same way in every member state. And this is something what might help. Secondly, we need to get rid of overlapping situations, because now the time pressure is there. We probably can't really have a kind of an aligned approach. I hope to GDPR, this is quite okay, or e-privacy and so on. But medical device directive, for instance, is something where we are not aligning these right now. And here we have to get rid of these overlappings, because this is creating legal uncertainty for everyone, and because of different interpretations in every legal act. Also this might occur. Here we have to use the transition period in finding or singling out those problems and trying to get rid of it. But this we won't have at the end of this thing. There is also something, if we are thinking about startups and small and medium-sized companies, they can't easily fulfill everything because it's very costly. Here we need a lot of supportive measures around, funding them or helping them, so that we are coming out with these good ideas, what might be a kind of a success of business models. We need venture capital also around. This might be these accompanying measures for becoming a success of these regulation and additional measures. Otherwise, it might be very hard. I love sometimes to see that we have a kind of motion for AI and digitalization in a more easier way. But this is not happening in a majority in our house. So that's why we need to have a strategy on digitalization, and I don't want to frustrate you all right now, and I don't want to see you running outside with tears in your eyes, but we do not have a kind of a surviving strategy in digital issues. And Europe can provide to the world something what other regions are not doing, is linking values to technology. But we need to be as fast as other regions who are not linking these, and we need to be a flexible legislator, so that we can come up, instead of years in regulating one issue, that we should have, in my mind is always occurring, 3 months of a democratic, legitimate decision in digital issues, not going to the detail, more the framing. And if we all have this on board, then I still would say we need a European strategy, we need to join forces, and we need probably to come up with European projects. But national politicians are not thinking in such a dimension, but I do not know how we will survive then. If every member state is doing its own AI strategy, but not scaling up somehow. And this is something where I would say we need to improve everything with a real digital surviving strategy in coming forward. Otherwise, the window of opportunity is closing.
Yes, so we need the European single market, and we need it in the classical dimension for industry, for trade, for transport, for agriculture, and we also need it in a new way, and we need it for the digital. So thank you very much for doing this, because it's important. That means that we have a microphone for questions. The microphone is there. It just fell, but it did not break. So everything is okay, and you can. Yes. Could somebody help, please? Please present yourself and then put your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Szepesi László. I am an active member of the youth of EPP. So it's a big pleasure to see you here, and it was a fantastic conversation. And my question is that during the conversation, you highlighted the balanced and the moderated approach in this AI Act context. And I would like to ask, what do you think, how this moderated approach can be communicated competitively in a way that remains interesting and engaging, as it is not always as sensational as views from extremists, either the left wing or the right wing side?
Mm-hmm. So the risk, of course, is always there to misuse everything, and that's why we need a kind of a good governance, we need a kind of a good framework also, and giving also everyone the tools in correcting. What we are seeing, of course, but this is now political, not really an answer to your question right now, but what we are seeing, if the European Union is leaving a vacuum, always China or Russia will be there. So that's why we have to be also competitive on our constitutional level somehow, and therefore disinformation, misinformation is a wonderful tool for all the others who would like to destabilize Europe. And this is something what we should have in mind, that we are also getting rid of these elements of trying to tackle these somehow. And that's why from the competition angle or perspective, this is something where can we do better. And because Europeans have the best ideas in these, we have the experts, but then once again, if we are coming to this consumer level like social media and so on, we are not very good. And here we should try to upscale and to get more independent and also to better control or governance the situation if others are doing here something. Everyone who is coming to our market now has to fulfill the AI regulation. So, but of course we know, let's say if you have bad intentions, and it's sometimes if you're using a knife for your kitchen work or to kill someone, is also a question of intention how to use these. And with cars or hammer or whatever it is. But here we have to make sure we are giving just, let's say, guidelines for using AI legitimately. And here then, of course, we have to try to control these in a way and to try to get rid of others. But regarding competitiveness, everyone who is coming to the European market has to respect the rules what we have then in place.
May I disclose something, Axel, from our discussions in earlier times? So one of our discussions, because we have discussed quite a lot about EPP, about the future of Christian democracy, and about the future of the European Union itself. And what I was always explaining to Axel is that when he comes to Eastern Europe as a politician coming from, well, Central Europe, because Germany basically is Mitteleuropa, yeah? So coming here in Eastern Europe, you will find politicians who are more outspoken. We are more harsh, you know. We are giving more direct statements or opinions. And what I want just to tell you now is that the way Axel is presenting, it's an opinion, so you can debate it. But the way Axel has presented to you the AI regulation and has answered the first question is not because of him being a lawyer, but is because of him knowing exactly that if you want to have your majority in the European Parliament, then you have a little bit to erase the sharpnesses, you know. If you are very sharp, that's very good, but then you will not have the compromise that I was speaking about. Of course, this is also a very big problem of the European Union, because sometimes we are just softening our tones so much that we renounce to very important things and we lose our edge. And this is a dilemma for us because we were discussing a lot. So this is just from the backstage, if you like.
If I may give you an example for the AI Act, also the Greens especially would like now to add that also one requirement should be the energy consumption of algorithms. This has nothing to do with the AI Act, but we have to take this on board. And I'm not sure if this is surviving with the Council, but we have to take this on board as an European Parliament opinion. Otherwise, this might create some other, let's say, risks for the majority. But energy consumption shouldn't be a part of the AI Act as a lawyer, I have to admit, because other rules are already taken care of this element. A second example would be, oh yes, AI systems should also have a fundamental rights impact assessment. It makes sense there where we have democratic or rule of law state structures in question, where this might be affected, but it totally doesn't make sense if you're buying shoes online or whatever. So that's why we need to be careful with these and trying to limit these to those AI systems where it really has an impact or an effect on these. But in general, it's so burdensome for all these companies then that this is not really kind of a wise step forward if you're having this competition and so on in mind. But now we have take these on board so far in this EP approach, the European Parliament approach. But we are, as an EPP group, still hoping that the Council is getting rid of these in a way where it makes sense. So just to give you this example, we have to take sometimes something on board what you do not consider is very intelligent, or you do not consider it belongs here to this place. But for the sake of compromise, then to move forward, you need sometimes this. Because you should have in mind there is no government or no opposition in the European Parliament. This is differently from the national parliaments, and here you have always to fight for each amendment, for your majority, and so on. So this makes it sometimes complicated. On the other hand, we are open for compromises that the developing is continuing.
Yes. For example, this was, yes, I see you, this was such a kind of statement that probably I would say in the following way. Look, people, the problem is that there are too many deep Greens in the European Parliament and they are making crazy proposals. And we have to fight against those crazy proposals as a European People's Party. And I just told you the same thing than Axel, but my sentences came from Eastern Europe. We have a question, please.
Thank you very much. My name is András Betlandi. I'm the head of academic affairs here at FCC Transylvania. I was wondering, listening to this very interesting discussion, that Are we sure that we need a separate act to regulate the new developments of AI, or we could simply apply the existing legal principles or fundamental rights, what we already have, and maybe to think about a faster court procedure which could react to each case rather than to think about the big system of regulation. So my question is, isn't there any other offer on the table instead of having a new legal act, but rather to have a new procedure to react to these new developments?
I'm very much sympathizing with your idea. Having less regulation, more principle-based frame. Just for instance, in copyright issues, the US is going forward with fair use principle, and we are in Europe are more detailed on everything. And this is also how it is right now in all these more detailed regulation what we are doing. You are more flexible as a legislator, and also probably all the companies more flexible than if you're just signing this frame and trying what is important. But then probably, I'm not sure, but probably in the detail there are then some legal uncertainties what let you doubt if this way what you are doing is the correct way, and can someone sue you because of something and so on. So that's why we are thinking sometimes it's better to come with detailed and explaining provisions. I'm not sure, so this is not giving you the flexibility as we can experience with the GDPR already. We never talked about AI at that time. We never talked about cloud, we never talked about blockchain. And all of a sudden, a couple of years later, you have all this on board, and this is creating legal uncertainty if you're using the GDPR rules for building up a business. And then the court, if they are then deciding, I don't know how long this will take here in Romania, but if you have to go to the European Court of Justice, it might take 5 till 8 years to get a judgment there. And this is not very acceptable at the end for a company who would like to be competitive in the digitalization. And also if we are looking to some principles in the GDPR, and I'm always criticizing the GDPR in its form what we have now in place. If you're looking to principles, it might always be a kind of a good thinking from the old century, but it doesn't fit in these now data-driven world. So deleting data means everything what you don't need exactly anymore, you have to delete this. But with the AI technology, the opposite is right. You need more data to train your algorithms. Also GDPR is saying process your data only for one purpose, where you get the consent of everyone. All of a sudden you have a kind of a different idea. You can create AI, and all of a sudden you have a different purpose where you can use the data. But if you are asking for consent to every one of these examples, then you get only 10%. This is why BioNTech in Germany for the vaccines, they developed these vaccine very fast via AI. But now they have left Germany for doing research in cancer questions because we are not providing all the health data they need to get a kind of a prediction out of it for the algorithms. So, and this is something where we are then not flexible enough. All of a sudden AI is consuming a lot of data. You need this, but we are not providing these. And if this is only 10% because of the consent, then all of a sudden you're totally out of business. And there's another principle in saying data minimization in the GDPR. Also here, again, AI, you need more data than it's necessary to detect some of these predictions you might be after. And this is an example where also principles might not be valid any longer in the digitalization century. But it gives you more flexibility as with the law or as a legislator or as a company that you do not have to modernize all the time something. Because I would say the General Data Protection Regulation is already outdated when it started to be enforced. But there is no political will, no political courage on the European Commission level in modernizing these. And now we are living with these old principles, old ideas, and not trying to survive in this digital age with a kind of a more balanced approach. This is what might happen if you have a kind of a not encouraged enough or probably no political leadership or not encouraged enough commission in coming forward. Just to give you an example, but in general, because of these fast changing times and because a legislator is too ponderous somehow, it would be better in going forward with principles, but then our mentality in the economy where we probably everyone expecting more explanations, then this is challenged somehow, but it gives you also space for maneuver. So it's pro and cons.
I think, may I ask a question first, please? It will be brief. Probably the question will be brief and the answer will be impossible. So if I feel correctly now, we have reached this point. A little bit earlier, you have been mentioning linking values to technology. And that is very important that we are discussing now. And we have reached the moment that we should discuss about Big Brother. So let's go back a little bit in the discussion. You have been mentioning facial recognition. And of course that you have to make a balance between the very important advantages in using facial recognition, because you can use it in medicine, you can use it in crime prevention, you can use it in the justice system. But then again, we have the social conditioning system in evaluation system in China. We have the emotional recognition, which we can use in airports, but also we can use it everywhere if we have enough cameras, as China does, or as the United Kingdom does, by the way. So where would be? Where Big Brother begins? Mm-hmm.
So if you would allow everything, then all of a sudden you might end up with a situation what you have described. But I would always say there isn't, if you have an active legislator, if there is a problem, we should solve it somehow. And also there is a way forward in limiting the access to data and also asking for what purpose you can use the data if the government or the police or state institutions might use it. So this is something what we should limit somehow. But if you would like to have also on the other side more security, then you have to find this balance. What I tried to mention before, there's always something good and also something bad. And to find this very thin line in balancing, this is what, for me as a lawyer, I would very much appreciate also to get this balanced right, to go this extra mile for it. But it's not a solution for me in just what the other parties are doing, saying we have to ban everything. So if you would like to have security and if you would like to have also protection for your fundamental rights, then you need to come to some criteria in balancing these. And there are possibilities, and you do not have to go to the extreme and saying, oh, totally yes or totally no. Now we can have criteria for it and making this more safe in a way for also our citizens.
Thank you. We have a question, yes. Next question.
Okay, so my name is Lorin Shaw. I work in the software development industry. I have a question related to GDPR, as you mentioned before. There are some problems with this regulation. So many innovative AI products are not available in Europe due to GDPR regulations related mostly to cloud technology, right? For example, Anthropic Claude, Microsoft Windows Copilot, or Office Copilot, or Google development bots and other bots that developers use. So this is limiting the possibilities of software development, research, but also education. So my question is, what is your strategy to solve this issue?
So my personal strategy, I expressed this already in what we are calling the AIDA report, so Artificial Intelligence in a Digital Age. We have done this a couple of years ago, but this was a non-binding report. But this gives you kind of a roadmap for surviving digitally as in EU or in Europe. I would say at first you need this political will. So there is no strategy. If you're looking to the Commission communication, there is this digital decade or digital compass code. The ideas are totally okay, but the execution of these ideas is not happening really. And this is what I'm missing, and where I would say we are missing political leadership here in coming forward with these. But I would always say we need this political will, we need this courage in also modernizing some existing laws like GDPR. We need to join forces, coming up with European projects and having or getting a lot of venture capital or capital for funding new instruments if we would like to survive. And you have already some figures in place, the market capitalization of companies. Europe has only 3% of these. Africa has 2%, and with totally different problems. But we, as a very industrialized and economically strong continent, we are not really adding something to the world here. And this is why we need a strategy, but I can't see this. I have to disappoint, unfortunately, everyone, because the Commission is focusing on some elements. And what we are doing as a Parliament, also in its majority, we are approaching this in a fear-driven way. We are just saying, oh, everything is so dangerous, either AI is taking my job, or well, whatever it is, only risks and fear-driven instead of this is the future, this won't disappear again, we have to embrace it, but we have to regulate it where we do not want to see it develop. And this is what we should do, because AI is the fundament of everything what is coming next. Of course, everyone needs to be aware what you might see in the future. If this is pictures, videos, our speeches might be totally different if someone is manipulating these. But you won't detect that there is, it can't be in the same with your mouth speaking in this direction, because it's possible. So everyone needs to have the competence in questioning if what I'm seeing, if this is still correct or not. But if everyone is believing this, then you are lost. But meaning at the end, we are approaching some of these problems in more than less a fear-driven way. That might be okay, but we should also have a kind of creating a mentality that this is a starting point in creating also our digital world. better. Because you're totally right, some of these aspects are hindering. They are too ponderous, they are too bureaucratic, they cost a lot, and so on. And this is how you can't compete with other regions, especially the big ones. They might now have a lot of money, and they also have the possibilities in fulfilling all the criteria our small companies can't. And this is where you're totally right. We should also think about to enable more instead of these fear-driven approaches.
Do you see a worldwide act coming up, which would be better than regional regulations, China, US? Does US have a plan to regulate anything at all?
No, so far I would say, so the big companies, if they are doing something, this might be spread somehow worldwide. If you're looking to these COVID apps, and I think you have had one here in Romania too, yeah. This has been done under the criteria of data protection. But in this extreme, how we have done this, it was not a better possibility in managing a pandemic situation. It was just because of securing or protecting data. And but the other idea would have been, how can I manage the pandemic situation better with this app? And this was not a possibility. So we are killing our own opportunities in a way. But so far a worldwide approach on something, the interests are too different. I'm totally with you in saying probably we need a kind of a global-wide regulation for data traffic. We have done this for this normal car traffic or individual traffic. There you know where to stop in China as well as in the US or in Europe, everywhere. These traffic signs are totally worldwide existing. Here with this global instrument of digitalization data and so on, probably I would say we need also something like this on a global level, but so far the interests are too different. And it might be, as you have seen, the G7 process, or called Hiroshima process, on AI, it's going on, so it's already taken from the member states or from the states itself, and on a not global level but on a more regional level or Western level or so. This is what I would always say is a must. Also that we have a better transatlantic coordination in all these questions. We have this TTC, and so Trade and Technology Committee. Council. Council. Oh, Council, yes, you're right. And this is something what we should probably more intensify and to come to worldwide standards in a way. So still Europe has the power in doing so, but in 10 years, I'm not sure any longer. So this is why I would say, yes, a global app would be wonderful in a way, our global approach on some issues, but so far I would say it's still a way of competitiveness about state structures and the Western world against the more Asian parts or whatever.
Okay, fascinating. We have a maximum of 15 minutes more, maybe 10, 12, 15 minutes. We have still 2 questions, so maybe I will take one more besides the 2 questions, please.
Hello, I am Demeter Tekla, and my question would be, what is the AI Act's approach to the creative sector? For example, AI is currently prepared to produce pop music at the quality as humans do?
So probably we have to approach this on different levels. If you are creating with AI something under the existing definitions, this is not copyright protected. But also there is no way forward so far. I hope we can do here a bit more next mandate, but so far you don't know how much you have to influence something what is AI created to get a kind of a copyright protected sign on it. This is still open, but it's quite clear so far if there is no human intervention in creating works, copyright protected works, then there is no protection. So this is quite clear, but it's not clear if you are doing something as a human influencing something, where is the level where you might say this is created by a human. But this is one level of these aspects. The other level is how we are coming forward with AI and especially the large language models who are taking and crawling throughout the internet and taking everything on board. The Commission is coming always with this element and saying, oh, the copyright reform in Article 4 was the commercial text and data mining possibility, should be treated in the same way. But if you're looking more closely to what the large language models are doing, they are creating something new out of this fundament, what text and data mining is not really doing. So I'm not sure if you can really compare this. I would say no, we need a kind of a special approach to it. Especially if you're coming to these questions of remuneration. I don't know how this will be functioning in the future. So we have to think about pragmatical ways forward, how the global AI providers can find out what is copyright protected and then how might they remunerate these. But this is not happening right now. This will happen hopefully in the future then. But here you can see it's how difficult it is now to combine copyright with AI or digital issues, and you can't expect a 100% solution any longer. This is what we have done with the copyright reform already, where we said, oh, from these three interests of users, platforms, and the copyright right holders, it happens that it might be used for something, but if this is not detected, you have to live with it somehow. So again, what we are trying to do is to give the copyright holders a possibility to enforce their rights in saying, you as an AI provider or large language model provider, you have to deliver a full documentation from how do you train your algorithms and an access to it, but as digital as possible, of course, in this direction. And sometimes the AI provider then saying, oh no, we can't deal with it and blah, blah, blah. But this is what I do not consider is a kind of a justified argument, because they are dealing with billions of data. And so, of course, then they can also provide a documentation. And in the future, but don't mention this problem right now in these AI discussions, if some of these AI providers are starting to select on what fundament they would like to train their algorithms, then it might also turn in this direction of manipulation already. And here we need to be careful. We need to have a kind of an instrument then in place also to governance these a bit better. And but this is not now a kind of a solution for the AI Act. This would complicate everything. But we need to have this in mind also for privacy rights so that someone can control what they have done in a way. So this is necessary probably for the future.
So if I listen very attentively to you, then the following is what I understand. There is a company, MyJack Music, which holds the rights of songs and master recordings of Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. So if MyJack Music reaches an agreement with an AI company, then very soon we will be in the position of seeing new songs and new videos with Michael Jackson.
And this probably already is existing, not with Michael Jackson, but there are a lot of music already created by AI, and this is something what we have to expect then.
We had a question, and I think
if I may to add something, for news publishers, this is also a kind of a big challenge. They are producing day by day the information. It costs a lot, and they are uploading these. And all of a sudden, these instruments are using these without remuneration, and all of a sudden, they are creating even better articles. But if the press publishers are not getting a kind of a remuneration, they will not existing for a long time. So this is also something what we should have in mind. Democratic states, rule of law states need an independent press, even if we do not like every time what they are writing or telling us. But we need to have this freedom of press installed also by these press publishers. So this is also a reason why we need to come forward with the question how to secure copyright protected works.
Good. So I'm looking in the room. One question, and it becomes the last question for this discussion. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Attila Darabos, and as a member of the Career Center, of course, I am interested in the effect of the AI on the job market. I don't want to enter the debate whether AI takes jobs or creates jobs or both, but nevertheless, recently we had an AI specialist. He said there will be for sure an effect, a serious effect on the job market. So how this AI Act approaches, how you see the future, or whether you are prepared for the future, or you see what it is, you analyze what it is, and then you take a position in this situation. So what's the approach concerning, will you protect employees, or what will happen concerning this job market?
So a part of the parliament probably is thinking in this direction in conserving, so in still having the situation in place where we are into, and that nobody should be replaced and so on. But this is not, from my point of view, the correct thinking or approaching these. So AI is there for predicting things or to replace if you have continuing doing the same thing, that AI can overtake these. So there will be a change take place, but what we are seeing with every disruption of technology so far, there is no proof that we get unemployed all of a sudden. On the other hand, there is no guarantee that this is not happening now for the first time. So we have to be careful. What I can tell to all the young people here in the room is, please make sure that your education is strong enough that you can rely on yourself in the future to have a life in dignity and so on. There's so much changing, you can't predict really what will be replaced or not. So a lawyer, I would say he might be replaced, by AI because they have already, the AI system has already a kind of a skill to bring everything together. But will this happen in the next years? I don't think so. So that's why from my point of view, it doesn't make sense to try to avoid what the future will bring. So you can be against it, but it doesn't make sense because it's coming. And that's why it's always better to embrace it and try to deal with it. And so get also, especially the young people in the room, try to get accustomed to these, improve your skills, and combine these. So ChatGPT, for instance, is the modern way of doing research. And if you're not accustomed to these and you are thinking, oh no, this is strange, then you're probably not on the right track. We have these discussions in the schools right now. It was first the calculator, then the internet, now it's ChatGPT. And of course, here I would say, instead of avoiding these, try to tell your students or your pupils then in saying use it, but then evaluate the result. This is probably the best way forward in seeing the future coming and trying to deal with it, instead of being, oh, I don't know, it's very scary and so on. It will come. So we can't avoid it. And that's why also in this employment sector, you don't know really, but if you are open enough and flexible enough and trying to get accustomed not only to these new technology, also to be flexible enough to upscale your skills, then I would say you are quite safe also for the market situation. But it needs to be forced also by the government, and so that the skills in China and US, you have already these at grammar school. You get a feeling about digitalization, about AI, so artificial or algorithms. And so I can't evaluate this here in Romania, but in Germany, we are far away to confront the younger generation with these digital skills. And this is totally out-fashioned or not. So, and then I'm coming always to the question, what might secure us the future? This is economy, this is the idea of Europe, otherwise we won't play a role any longer. And this is digitalization. And this is what we have to have in mind in facing the future and embracing these and trying to model these a bit better in our direction of linking values and technology. Sorry for this long answer.
Yeah, and also thank you very much for the wonderful closing idea, because as you said, I believe strongly that what we have to do is to embrace the future, to embrace change, to be or become very good surfers, and to ride the wave of change. Thank you very much, Axel Voss, and please give Axel Voss a big applause.
Thank you.